Okay, so next we have Miss Janet Lightburn. She's going to be doing our suicide awareness training. She is actually the flight unit training manager. So it's just another type of trainer for the whole flight. So I'm going to pass it on to Miss Janet.
I love you guys' energy. Oh my gosh, for a Saturday, because we have to be here, right? So that's all right. But we're talking about this somber subject of suicide prevention, right? So this will satisfy your 2023 annual refresher for suicide prevention. This is an interactive class as much as it can be. So please participate. It makes it go by faster because I think once I'm done, probably about 30 minutes, then we got a few other things, and then I don't know what's on your schedule, but whatever, I'm just making it up. So anyway, so welcome today. Next slide. So I have to go over this disclaimer with you because it is such a sensitive subject. So this topic may be difficult to discuss. Some of you may have had personal experiences with suicide, and it may be difficult to participate. At any time, feel free to take a few minutes for self-care or ask for help if you are having difficulty. We want open dialogue, but we also want to remain respectful of those around us. Even if you do not have a personal experience, someone in the room may. So please make sure all comments are respectful. Everybody agree?
Yes.
All right. So if you do need to leave the room for some self-care, please come back so that I can check on you later. Okay? Agree? Agree. All right. Next slide. All right, so these are the things that we're going to go over today, but the biggest thing is we care, we connect. So we want to show that we care. We want to show that we connect, right? So being connected with people, that's how we care, right? So some of the things we're going to talk about as I trip over this thing, understanding the importance of connectedness, connectedness, right? Recognize risk factors, warning signs of distress. So we're going to talk about stress versus distress. We got eustress. So there's all kinds of stress out there. Applying behaviors and actions to intervene. So acting on those things that we see, and how to use ACE for clear and quick action. So we'll go over that, and then apply and understand the importance of time-based prevention and the go slow prevention tools that we have. So next slide. All right, connectedness. So tell me what it means to be connected. What do you think? Oh, where's the energy? Oh my gosh, I know it's hot in here. I'm having a blast. Having
Communication.
open communication. Go ahead, connecting. Same thing. All right, bringing people into your circle, right? So if someone is having issues, or if someone is, kind of out there a little bit, you don't want to isolate them, but more like insulating them, bringing them into the fold. So connecting them into your circle, right? Learning that connectedness. All right. So connecting to someone is basically, it's a simple thing, right? You okay? Doing all right. How about you? Yeah. All right. So we connected. But how can you connect with someone? You guys work together all day, every day, except Saturday and Sunday, except for today. But so how do you connect?
Hey, Gina, how's mom?
Small talk, right? Finding what that other person maybe is interested in. Taking them to lunch.
Or not reach the person that they need a hug.
Give them a hug, but ask them first, right?
How many times have you guys walked past my office and seen, I guess, a look on my face, or that I'm stuck in my computer and you guys pop in? You doing good, Miss Jen? You good?
Yeah.
Also, right. That's important to ask people if they're okay. And I don't mean like, you okay? Okay, cool. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really just asking her, right? Are you okay? How's everything? Let's talk, right? So it's connecting, building that group, that connectiveness, right? That helps with this suicide prevention training. That's what we're going to do. All righty. So how can you use connectedness in the prevention of suicide?
You because you will, if you're connected to the person or some of your coworkers, you will recognize when Martha is in distress or something's going on with Citrine or Miss Brenda, because you will say, Miss Brenda, are you okay? And she said, I'm fine. And you look at her face and go, you don't look fine.
Right, you can
Something's
tell.
going on. Would you like to talk about it? And
Right.
Okay, sometimes I ask them, would you like me to pray for you? So
Right.
it just depends.
Right,
If they say yes, I do pray for some of my coworkers. And if they say no, I'm okay, then I just say, well, I'm here if you need me.
right,
Or sometimes they
Absolutely.
want to told you
Yeah.
something and you need to be there,
And
right,
able to listen. and
Exactly.
Just listen sometimes.
right.
If
If
it's
my
somebody-
face turns red, it's not because I'm embarrassed, I'm having hot flash. So for those at my office, right, that know me, they know Monday's not my day. Not my day. You walk by me, you will know today's not my day. But that's only because you connected with me, right? You know that normally on Monday's not my day. But if you don't know me, you might walk by me like, oh, I need to call somebody, right? So that's all about connectiveness. Now, the thing is, Tuesday, I'm better, right? Friday, I'm good. I'm good, right? But Monday, if you happen to come in, you see me dancing on the tables, you might want to check on me, either do a drug test, check my bank account. I might have won the $800 million Powerball, whatever, but that's not a normal, we're all friends at that, we'll all connect then. Girl. So yeah, so it's all about connecting, knowing each other, because we spend a lot of time together.
yes.
Probably more than we do our own family. So we can see that change in each other. So it's all about connecting, right? All right, next slide. All right, stress versus distress, right? So, do we know the difference? So what is stress?
Our daily job.
Daily job, right?
Get overwhelmed.
It's pretty much normal. Stress is a normal part of life, right? We all go through stress. A storm might be stressful. Being here today is stressful. You know, everything is stressful. But it's how you deal with it, right? Right. So have you guys heard of eustress? So eustress is the good stress, right? I know you're like, this good stress, but there is such a thing as good stress. So maybe like when you get married, nah, don't use that. But, you know, maybe winning the Powerball, you know, all the good things. So that's eustress, right? Right, where I'm dancing on the table. So we talk about stress. How do we cope with stress? What do you guys do to cope with stress?
I talk about it.
You talk about it,
Listen to music.
listen to music,
read a book,
Eat ice cream.
ice cream, very good, right?
chocolate,
Maybe taking a walk,
Yeah.
go to work.
right? Now, most of you, you know, as stress hits during the day because of work,
Mhm.
it's not like you can just up and leave all the babies in the room,
No.
right? Can't do it. So how do you cope with that at that time?
Breathe.
Breathe, right? Maybe do some meditation. There's all kinds of apps out there to learn how to breathe, meditate, all that good stuff. Maybe you just need to tap out, right? Go take a break for a few minutes. So those are stress, how to cope with stress. But the issue is we're all stressed. We all have stress. And think about our kids. How stressed are our children?
It gets stressful.
We are, kids are so busy these days. They have a lot of stress too, right? So think about that as well. But the problem is when we're stressed and it turns into distress. And that's what we're focusing on. Learning how to see distress and how to help people that are in distress, right? So for distress, what are some of the risk factors, do you think? What causes distress? So we have stress, right? Turns into something more. So risk factors, relationships, work, money, all these different things, right, are our risk factors. What are some of the early warning signs, do you think? Possibly, yeah. So she said selling all your stuff.
Like you start giving it away.
Changing their personality, absolutely. So some of the early warning signs, maybe drinking,
Yeah.
right? So you're trying to find a coping mechanism for the distress. Now, look, I'm not saying drinking's bad, but I'm saying when you get to a point where that's, you're using that as your coping, right, to get past this. Hopelessness, right? Feeling lonely, sad, all those things are some early signs of distress. So immediate. So more immediate is giving away your stuff, right? Or maybe saying, I want to die. That's pretty immediate, right?
Yeah.
That's the red flag you need to look out for. So
Cutting up basic hygiene.
hygiene, right, right, absolutely.
Having suicide.
Having a plan, absolutely. Yep. So those are all some of the signs to kind of watch out for, but it all goes back to connectedness, right?
Right.
We gotta know each other. All right. So the question up there is, remember when you had a deadline for a major project? What were some healthy ways you coped with the stress? Right, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Right, you can't eat the whole thing at one time. So, chunks at a time. What else? What do you do?
Ask for help.
Ask for help, delegate a little bit to kind of help you with that. Maybe walking away for a few minutes, taking some deep breaths, right? And then you learn from that situation for the next time. Because trust me, we're all gonna have deadlines. We're all gonna have stressful assignments that we have to do. So learning to cope with that. All right, next slide. All right, so talk kind of a little bit about warning signs, resiliency. So the question is, what is the relationship between resilience and suicide? What do you think? So what does resilience mean? Right. How to bounce back, right? How to bounce back from something stressful or distressful, right? So how does resilience work into suicide prevention?
Some people can't bounce back.
Right. They can't. And that's where the issue lies. And so those are the people that we have to get help. Because getting help is fine, right? There always used to be this stigma of getting help, a bad thing. It is not a bad thing, right? Encouraging people to get help. Definitely. All right. Go back. Oops. You trying to move along. Okay. All right. So we talk about Air Force suicide, some of the common stressors, relationship, work problems, definitely administrative issues, financial problems is always a big one, right? So those are some of the common stressors for Air Force suicide. What might you notice or hear that may indicate someone might be thinking about suicide? What do you think?
Somebody who's outgoing all of a sudden is not outgoing, they're keeping to themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that could be something that you might notice, right? Just changes in their behavior. All right. We talked about signs of distress. So mood changes, depression, anxiety, irritability, someone who was always upbeat and happy, all of a sudden now they're just right. Yeah. They just have attitude all the time. You know, those are signs that it's distress there. Okay, next slide. Okay, applying behaviors to intervene. So checking in. So that's the whole, are you okay? Right? Checking in to see how people are doing. If you're worried about somebody, call them. To see how they're doing. Text them. All right, having a conversation. Just having that normal talk. Letting somebody talk. Right? Be their sounding board. They may just need to vent. Providing services and support, and then intervention, and we'll kind of go into all these. Next slide. All right, so we talk about ACE. So A says ask, care, and escort. So if a person is going through a divorce, has financial problems, appears to be in distress, looks depressed, and says things like, everyone will be better without me. Do you think that person is thinking about suicide?
Yes. Possible.
How would you know?
Just-
You gotta ask, right? Ask them. Right, what's going on? Are you thinking about suicide? Now, the thing is, when you ask, you better be ready for the answer, right?
Right.
And it's not that, how you doing? Okay, you know what I'm saying? You have to be ready for that answer. What if they say, yes, I am thinking about suicide? Are you ready for that? What do you do? Right? So it's asking, we'll talk about care, and we'll talk about escort. So next slide. All right, so like I said, ask, don't beat around the bush. Don't beat around the bush. Be direct and deliberate. Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about committing suicide? Right? You have to ask them to know where they're at, and then be prepared for the answer, and then know how to help them with whatever they give you. Right? All right, so ask direct. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Because if you ask this, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Someone that is planning on suicide, they don't want to hurt themselves. They're already hurting. They're trying to get past that. They don't want to hurt themselves. They just want it to be over. So that's why you don't ask those kind of questions. You want to be direct and deliberate. All right. Next slide. All right, care. All right. So once we've asked, then we go to care, right? How do we show we care? I'm sorry. Listening, absolutely. Listening and just letting them talk. And then, you know, how many times we listen where we're forming that next question in our head, right? So are we really listening? No. So this is really just sitting down, letting them talk. Truly active listening. Right? My husband is famous for this, right? He never listens. I'm sure you guys can relate. But you know, you have these people that they're the saviors and they want to fix. So sometimes you just have to tell them, I just want you to listen. Don't try to fix the issue, right? Or, yes, I want your help with this. Right. So there's so many things, so many different listening books, all kinds of stuff out there. So if you want more on listening, that's a whole nother topic. But just to actively listen, what else? What else can you do to show you care? Maybe just being there, right? Just being there with them, spending that time with them. So how long do you show you care?
For as long as it's needed.
As long as it's needed, right?
Yeah.
But what happens if it like goes on and on? You know what I'm saying? Like you got kids at school, you got to pick up, right? So how long? So you care until you can't, right? Because you don't want to stress yourself out. So yes, you want to care, you want to be there as long as you can. But when it gets to a point where you see that they need more than what you can give them, then that's when you have to pass it.
Ask them to allow you to contact someone.
Right,
On their behalf.
right. But you want to lead them to that decision, right?
Yes.
Because how many times have we been forced to do stuff that we didn't want to do
Not ready.
and we didn't follow through, right? So if it's our own decision, we're better at following through. That makes sense. All right, so when you're caring for someone, you want to transition to escort when you can no longer, because you've already stressed yourself out enough, you realize they need more help, right? So at that point, never leave them alone, right? Never leave them alone. You want to do that handoff with someone else with that escort. So next slide. All right, escort. So who do we escort them to? I'm sorry, professionals, right? Emergencies. What if they refuse? I mean, you can't make somebody do something they don't want to do.
A trusted person, somebody they trust.
Right, absolutely, right. If you feel like someone is actively about to commit suicide, call 911, whether they want you to or not, right? Because you can just save their life. Never leave them alone, okay? There's other people you can escort them to. There's a whole list. Like I said, helping them to make that decision is better. You don't want to make that decision for them. But we have like the chaplains, religious affairs on base. They have 100% of confidentiality. I'm supposed to tell you that. But anyways, if you feel like they're about to commit suicide or in distress, refuse help, call 911. That's the bottom line. Okay. All right, next slide. All right, so these are some of our helping agencies, and I will send this out to Miss Jen and she can pass this along. Also in the back, there's some little cards that have different helping agencies on it as well. So these are some of the places that you can escort them to. All right, next slide. And here's some more. But the bottom, so they do have a 988. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline that you can call now. So these are some of the numbers that are available on the base. All right, next slide. Okay, so we talk about time-based prevention. So this is called Go Slow, and it's basically putting time and distance from a person that is actively thinking about suicide and whatever means they plan on using, right? So we have gun locks in the back for, so you can lock up your weapons, medications, whatever. So that's basically what Go Slow is. It's just putting that distance between people and the needs, right? So that's Go Slow. Next. All right, so we're gonna do a suicide truth or myth. And so I'm gonna ask you guys, I'm gonna call out people to read these. So we're gonna get a little exercise out of this. So if you think the answer is true, please stand up when we read it. If it is false, please stay seated and we'll go to the next one, okay? So play this game with me. It's gives you some quad workout, right? All righty. So can you read number 1 for me, please?
Suicide attempt or death happened without warning.
All right. What do you think? Is that true or false?
What was it?
Suicide attempt.
True. So if it's true, stand up. If it's false, stay seated. Okay, so the answer is it is a myth. So this is the reasoning behind this, right? And I'm not a suicide prevention expert by any means, and this does not mean every person out there was no sign, right? But the majority, they say it's a myth. The answer says the survivors of a suicide often say that the intention was hidden from them.
Yes.
It is more likely that the intention was just not recognized, right? There may have been some warning signs. Maybe you didn't see. Maybe the family didn't see because they hide it, right, from certain people. So, this one is, I mean, you just, it's situational, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so anyways, it's a mess.
Because the family could say, I didn't see it,
Right.
and
But
to
maybe
them,
they're
they-
not the closest to them, right? Maybe a coworker may have seen something.
Exactly.
Right, so anyways, that one, it says is a myth. All right, number 2, please.
Okay.
Mental health professionals are the only ones who can really help a person in crisis.
All right, is that
Nothing.
true
False.
or a myth?
Myth.
All right, so everybody stay seated. Perfect. So it is a myth. Interventions by mental health professionals are very important, but many people that have thoughts of suicide don't get help, right? They don't seek a therapist. So it is important all people who interact with a person in crisis know how to help them. Right, so that one is a myth. So kind of in your head, keep track of how many you got right on. When we're done, I'm gonna go over that. All right, so number 3, you read that one?
Many individuals with mental illness are not affected by suicidal thoughts, and not all people who attempt or die by suicide have a mental illness.
All right, what do you think? Is that true or false? If it's true, stand up. I'm trying to keep y'all awake. All right, the answer is true. Very good. All right, so the reason behind it is relationship problems and other stressful such as criminal, legal acts, matters, eviction, loss of home, death of a loved one, a devastating or illness, trauma, sexual abuse, rejection, are all associated with suicidal thoughts and attempts. All right, number 4. Can you read that one for me?
Everyone with thoughts of suicide is depressed.
All right, what do you think? Is that true? False.
False.
Okay, stop, guys. All right, so that is a myth. While depression is a contributing factor in most suicides, it is not mandatory for a person to attempt or die by suicide. All right, number 5. Can you read that one for me?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Most service members who die by suicide have a mental illness.
False.
False.
All
I would say
right,
false.
good, good. Less than half of military suicides had a current or past mental health diagnosis, which is why it is so important we notice things with our teammates, right? Our whole connectiveness, that seem out of character. All right. Number 6. Ma'am, please.
People thinking about suicide can help themselves.
Is that true? Stand up. All right, do you think
No.
when people are
No.
thinking about
Don't agree.
suicide that they can help themselves?
No,
Is there like they can help themselves or they can help themselves?
but themselves.
I get what you're saying. They have the resources, but it's choice to help themselves.
All right, I'll give you the answer.
The sure way. I think you can-
All right, so that is true. People may have a distorted perception of their actual life situation and what situations are appropriate for them to take. However, with support and constructive assistance, caring and informed people around them, people can gain full self-direction and self-management in their lives. Does that answer your question?
No.
I got it.
I got confused.
They can help themselves, to help themselves. All right, go to the next slide.
But if you can hold yourself.
All right, number 7, ma'am, please.
People who talk about killing themselves or make suicide threats and attempt should always be treated seriously.
Drew, stand up. All right, that is true. All suicide threats should be taken seriously. Intervention should happen immediately. Okay. All right, number 8. You're next.
Once a person is intent on suicide, there is no way of stopping them.
What do you think? Right. All right, that is a myth. Suicides can be prevented. People can be helped. Suicide crisis can be relatively short-lived. Immediate practical help such as staying with the person, right? Showing that we care, encouraging them to talk, maybe escorting them somewhere, and helping them build plans for a future can avert the intention to attempt or die by suicide. Okay, number 9. Ma'am, please.
Talking about suicide will lead to and encourage suicide.
What do you think? Us talking about this today,
No.
am I encouraging it?
False.
No.
No.
Right?
No.
So that is a myth. Talking about it does not cause someone to become suicidal. In fact, thinking about suicide not only reduces the stigma, but also allows individuals to seek help rethink their opinions and share their stories with others. All right, almost done. Number 10. Ma'am, please.
Most people thinking about suicide develop a plan. The more specific the plan, the greater.
So what do you think about that? True, stand up. Then true. Okay. Yeah, so it is true. All right, once the idea of suicide has been considered, right, the person has a plan, which is the time, the place, and the means to complete the act. That's a concern, right?
Yes.
All right, with early intervention, there is less time for a person in crisis to plan and the danger is decreased. Though not eliminated, right? It's not eliminated, but it is decreased. All right, last one. Your turn. Number 11.
I shall let.
I was hoping it would make it to me. Depression and self-destructive behavior are rare in young people.
What do you think about?
Oh.
Right, that is a myth. Both forms of behavior are common in younger ones. Okay, so did you guys keep track of your score?
Yes.
You won?
There's no winning in
Where's
this
my
trend.
friend?
All right, let me find a breakdown here.
Wow.
All right, it's funny on my training sheet, it says 10 through 15 correct, and I'm like, it's only 11, right?
Only.
Extra credit, I guess, all right, so we'll say 9 to 11 correct, you should be prepared to aid a person with thoughts of suicide, so, but keep learning, right? Keep, always learn, never stop learning. So if you got about 6 to 8, knowledge about aspects of suicide prevention, learning more will provide tools to help you to help someone else, right? And then if you got below 5, we'll do a remedial class. Summer school. Summer school, all right, after school. Yeah. All right, next slide. All right, so, Department of the Air Force wants feedback about training. This is the link. You can go on there and give them feedback. Thank you. And next slide. Any questions?
Let me